I think you pay some cost in the other matchups because the land's coming to play tapped. You don't always have double white for Elspeth. You're paying costs in other places, but certainly the black mirror match is where, or not mirror match obviously, but the similar black control lists, I feel that's where the black-white build really shines.
All right, we are going to go to our second match. Check, this is Joe Jancuk versus Chris VanMeter. Both players are 5-0. We saw Chris just a couple rounds ago playing mono black devotion, still undefeated. He is on your left, Joe Jancuk on the right, playing black-green devotion, which is just only slightly a green deck.
Yeah, he is only really touching Abrupt Decay for green in the main deck. He has access to a couple sideboard cards like Golgari Charm, like a Gaze of Granite, but it is basically another black devotion deck. Abrupt Decay gives it answers to a couple of annoying cards, most notably Underworld Connection to the Mirror.
Yeah, a lot of players I know who play Black-Green Devotion really do like this deck in the Mirror. They feel like they're a slight favorite. Chris, though, on the play for game 3, we see both players trade off tap lands. Chris scryed, and on turn 2, Chris will duress. He sees a pretty good hand for the Mirror from Joe. It's going to be 3 swamps, 2 connections, 2 pack rats.
Yeah, hard to imagine a hand much better suited for the Mirror.
But Chris is going to make an inroad. He actually has 2 duresses and manages to get both Underworld connections. So now Joe has the dilemma of pack rat or Thoughtseize here.
I like casting the Pack Rat now that he's drawn Thoughtseize, as next turn he can Thoughtseize and cast Pack Rat. A little more mana efficient.
He has 2 of them, so he doesn't have to worry about the first one getting removed. And that's going to be a Hero's Downfall from Chris. And we see a Duress and Thoughtseize from Joe. This is one of those hands sometimes in the Mirror where both players just tear each other's hand apart. And Chris flush on 3 Pack Rat answers.
Yep. So you're looking at 2 Dark Betrayals and a Hero's Downfall. Now just with Dark Betrayal left over.
Yeah, so both players have just turned each other's hands to shreds. Chris has a Dark Betrayal, Jancuk has a land and a Pack Rat.
And I think Joe is trying to get to a spot where he can play a Pack Rat with 5 mana in play to make a rat in the same turn.
All right, he's going to Thoughtseize. I think he's going to take the Dark Betrayal.
Or you can just rip another discard spell and open a hole here.
Yeah, so there's some different modes to the Black Mirror. One of this happens a lot. Normally it's in the Devout. Normally it's the player now who, yeah, you see Chris top deck the Devour Flesh for the Pack Rat. Now it's on whoever top decks Underworld Connections. Or maybe Desecration Demon. It's like we're almost past the Pack Rat point in the game. Not entirely. Chris plays a Temple, sees Night Veil Spectre on the top, chooses to keep it. Joe, Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
So these mono black mirror matches can be pretty hectic post board. I mean, it's the first person to get either a card advantage engine or a real threat to stick. Yep. And there's so many discard spells that the games often look a little like this.
Chris is threatening to get ahead now, though. He does have a card advantage spell. It's going to be in Night Veil Spectre. Joe swings with Grey Merchant. This is probably just a bluff, unless he left in Farika's Cures.
Chris
or maybe
not willing to risk it.
Charm.
Night Veil Spectre in the Mirror unchecked is so excellent that Chris is not even going to risk it.
Yeah, the real spell is Golgari Charm, I suppose. If he'd kept that in, that would have blown him out. And Chris gets a free Mutavault and then casts Grey Merchant. That will drain for 5, Jancuk down to 12. And no help. Jancuk's hand is another Duress and a Thoughtseize.
Yeah. So a lot of discard, which would have been excellent if this Pat Rack stuck, but Chris had a lot of removal spells.
Yeah. If you're Joe, would have you waited on the Pack Rat? You probably can't.
Yeah, there's some risk, right? Because Chris can draw a Thoughtseize. It's all predicated on you drawing a 5th land anyway, which you don't even know about.
I suppose it's just as likely that Chris draws a Thoughtseize than that. Well, not just as likely, but there's chance to both. Right. To leaving it in hand.
If he had the 5th land already, I would have held off a turn, but without it, I think it's worth putting Chris to the test.
All right, and Night Veil creating more card advantage finds another land. This one's a Overgrown Tomb. He's going to go ahead and Thoughtseize Joe. Joe's going to, in response, Hero's Downfall this Night Veil Spectre, so it does not get another card. Right now, score is 21-8 in favor of VanMeter, but both players are back to playing the top deck game. Joe finally did find an answer to that Night Veil Spectre. We see another Thoughtseize by VanMeter. He's at a healthy life total. He may fire this one off.
Yeah, I think it's worth waiting because there's nothing that Joe could have drawn that he can't cast in response if it's relevant. So he might as well wait for a point where his mana is constricted a little bit.
And that's the big draw for Joe. He draws Underworld Connections.
Now he is fairly low on life.
Right, so he has to be careful here.
But that is a big draw step.
And Thoughtseize by VanMeter shows Overgrown Tomb, so that's going to just brick. Chris goes down to 19. You're right, Joe's a little low on life. He's going to have to draw to a Gray Merchant at some point here, but once he finds one, he's in the clear.
Yeah.
And I like to play VanMeter. Recognize that Joe's low on life. He actually suicides the Mutavault to get 2 points through to put Jancuk down to 6. So Jancuk will go to 5. He's minimizing the number of cards Jancuk gets to see. Draws another land and a duress. No help yet. Goes to 4. And actually, Chris did play a replacement Mutavault, so he actually has Jancuk down to what could be 2 life.
Yeah, Chris did a really good job, I think, of identifying that Mutavault play is not obvious, but there's a lot of little things going on, you know, getting Joe low, the underworld connections in play.
That was 2 cards he made him discard right there.
And puts a lot of pressure on Joe to draw really well right away.
Yeah, Joe really, he needs the Gray Merchant. He really needs to find just a Gray Merchant. He could find a Devour Flesh for himself. That would work too. You could convert that to 4 cards, but then he wouldn't have a blocker, so there's some risk to that as well. And a swing by both creatures, but Joe did draw the Dark Betrayal. He's able to eat the Gray Merchant and the Mutavault, taking no damage. And Chris's last card is another Mutavault, and Joe starts to pull away here. So you see Nightveil Spectre drawn, a land played. Joe conservatively leaves back the Gray Merchant as a blocker. And Chris, with the response, he has a Connections of his own.
Really big draw for Chris, obviously, and he has a lot more life to play with. He's behind the gun now, of course, but...
Well, this is where Gray Merchants start becoming really important. But I believe for Jancuk, I think his draw was Abrupt Decay, so he wants to be the only one with Underworld Connections. And this is where the green splash is so big, because Joe can blow up Chris's connections, but his own are safe. Nightveil Spectre hits for 2, steals a Hero's Downfall. That's 16 to 3, but Chris is struggling to find 3 damage. He's gonna have to just top deck into Gray Merchants.
And that door might have just been closed as Joe
found one of his own.
Just picked up a Gray Merchant, yep.
And there you go. That Gray Merchant will drain for 9. That'll push Chris down to 7 and Joe up to a healthy 12. That should be enough. This swing puts Chris down to 5. Joe finds a duress. And an Erebos for Chris, but that's too little, too late. Joe Jancuk, 2 games to 1, defeats Chris VanMeter and moves on to 6-0. Chris takes his first loss of the day and will be at 5-1.
And like you said, you know, the mono black